Hi everyone and welcome to another recipe video, and today I'm making this super purple ube magic custard cake. Now the magic thing about this is it separates itself into layers while baking in the oven. You've got sort of a pastry-ish layer at the bottom, a creamy custard layer in the middle and a sponge cake layer at the top, but you only make the one cake batter. And the main raising agent is eggs, not baking powder or self-raising flour, so let's go! First, you're going to want to preheat your oven to 160 degrees C. Get it nice and hot for your cake. And now the most crucial part of this recipe, we have to separate our eggs into egg whites and egg yolks. So you see I've got a massive bowl on the right and a relatively big bowl on the left. Now I'm going to crack the egg whites into the big bowl and separate the egg yolks off into the smaller bowl, as you can see here. This is how I do it. I just toss that egg yolk between the two shells, and as that happens the egg white runs down in between the shells. And you have to be very careful not to get any egg yolk into the egg white, otherwise that will stop it from fluffing up properly later. So let's do that for all 5 eggs that we have. And another messy but effective way of separating egg yolks is to literally crack the whole egg in the bowl and then get in there with your hands and scoop the egg yolk out, but this is just how I do it. Now we're just going to set the yolks aside for a second, and we're going to go straight in with an electric whisk and whisk these whites up until they form stiff white peaks, so basically like you're making a meringue. And you can kind of do this with a handheld balloon whisk, but it will take you forever and you'll get a very sore arm. So preferably do use an electric whisk. As you can see, these are nice and thick, they're not going anywhere now. So they're just right for adding 30 grams of caster sugar. We're just going to whisk this in until it's glossy and even, which doesn't take as much time. And then we're going to add a pinch of salt just to bring the flavour out, not that much. And most importantly of all, 2 teaspoonfuls of ube extract, and this also gives it that really vibrant purple colour. So let's just mix that all in until it's nice and evenly combined. And you can use other extracts at this point. I've done this with Pandan paste before, which I'll link the recipe down below in the description. So now that bit's done, we're going to now whisk the egg yolks. Add 135 grams more caster sugar. We're just going to break the egg yolks up a bit so they don't splat everywhere. And we're going to whisk this up until it's really thick and pale. And what we're trying to do in both instances is add as much air as possible, because we're not going to be using any other raising agents, it's all going to be from the eggs. Now that that's done, we're going to whisk in 100 grams of unsalted butter, which has been melted and then cooled. Make sure you don't add it hot, otherwise it will cook those egg yolks. And just whisk it in until it's all combined and it will be nice and thick. And this part also doesn't take very long, just a minute or 2. And once that's done, we're just going to add 115 grams of plain flour, and this gives the cake its body and the sponge on top. So we're just going to carefully fold that in very gently with our balloon whisk, and you can also use a spatula. You can see I'm using folding turning motions, being careful not to beat out too much of that air. Now at this point, because I want more custard than cake, I'm actually going to add in the meringue now. If you want more cake than custard, you add the milk in at this point and then add the meringue at the end, which I'm actually going to show you next week with a different flavoured recipe. But for today we're going to do the meringue first method. So let's add the rest of the meringue in. As you can see, I added a bit at the beginning just to loosen the mixture up, and now I'm adding all of the rest of that egg yolk mixture into the meringue, and using the same careful folding method so that I don't beat out too much of that air prematurely. Just do that until it's just combined. And then lastly, we're going to appear to ruin all of our hard work by dumping in 500 millilitres of milk. We're going to continue gently stirring, and it's going to look like an absolute disaster, but trust me, it's going to work. So keep stirring until you just have that light foam on top. Then once that's just done, we're going to pour it into an 8 by 8 inch square pan, which you can see I've lined with some baking paper, which will make it easy to lift out afterwards. So just pour that liquid straight in. And believe it or not, this is going to separate itself into 3 layers in the oven, so let's bake it for 50 minutes and see what happens. And just like magic, it's gone all puffy and spongy on top. So now we want to leave it to cook completely and then pop it in the fridge for 4 hours at least. And now the fun part, we're going to slice it into 9 squares. So that's 3 on one side and 3 on the other. Oh, by the way, if you prefer a softer set custard, then feel free to bake it for 40 to 45 minutes instead of the full 50 minutes. because then the middle will be softer. 50 gives quite a firm set, which I quite like, especially after being in the fridge. Remember, as it gets colder, it'll get harder. And now this next part's completely optional, but I like to decorate mine with a bit of whipped double cream. So I'm going to grab 150 milliliters here. Actually, full disclosure, this is 300 milliliters, but I kind of wanted some for coffee afterwards. You actually only need half, so 150 milliliters of double cream, and I'm just going to whip it until it's nice and thick and pipeable. So I'm just going to whack that all into a piping bag with a star tip, and I'm going to pipe swirls on top of each square of cake, which you can see I've neatly separated here out on my chopping board. For the gram, of course. So just going to pipe these on. And then I also added some strawberries and edible flowers because I was feeling a bit bougie. Also, strawberries are delicious. Yes, I know, I missed one out there. Don't worry, I did catch it in the end. And I missed out a flower too. Again, I caught it just at the end. And now we're done. And just look at those gorgeous layers. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope you'll join me next Wednesday for my next one. Get the full recipe on my blog tashcakes.com and find me on Instagram as tashcakestastes. Subscribe and hit the notification bell if you'd like to see more. Give this video a like if you liked it. Comment down below if you'd like me to make anything in particular, and I'll see you guys later. Be good, be nice, and have a good week.